I just knew that my passion was business, and I was good in school. I did really well. I was the top of my class, but I was so bored with school. I did get my degree, but that was just to make my mom happy. I would have been fine not going to college, just going to get my insurance license, doing something, start my own business. I feel like for me, just wasn't rewarding to go that direction, but entrepreneurship was instilled in me.
And you served in Iraq and Korea, South Korea as well.
Correct.
And when you came back, you were honorably discharged as a sergeant.
Correct.
And you came back and you started your business, but then you said you also had a PTSD, right?
Yes.
Would you be comfortable talking about
Sure.
that?
I wasn't comfortable a few years ago. Now through my nonprofit, I speak about it regularly. I've gotten more comfortable just being open about it. I was ashamed of it at first. I didn't know what it was. I remember just being in church, and I looked at my friend to the right and said, "It's hot in here." She said, "No." So my friend to the left said, "Hot in here." Started having a panic attack, and it was the lights and the dark room and all the loud music and everything else. So I walked out, sweating. I went and got a smoothie or something up the way from church. And I didn't tell too many people about it. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And I finally tell another veteran who'd been through Vietnam, and he says, "You've got textbook PTSD, you need to go see the VA." So I went to the Veterans Administration and saw a doctor there. Yeah, it's very complicated.
The sentence that I took from your election campaign, right? It says that the time has come for me to step up to the next challenge and show the entire city the level of service that the citizens of Ward 5 have seen. Can you elaborate that?
Sure. So in High Point, we operate with 6 districts. We call them wards. Then there's 2 at-large candidates or council members, and then you have the mayor. And so for the last 6 years, my area has been right here where we're sitting, Ward 5. And I felt like I've done a thorough job. I've shown them what good representation is going to be like. But I think
Hello and welcome to Smart Digi Presents Keep Talking with Ananta. In today's episode of podcast, I have a very distinguished guest from the city of High Point. He says that as your representative of the citizens of Ward 5 for the city of High Point, I have spent the last 6 years listening to your concerns and advocating for your needs. The time has come for me to step up to the next challenge and show the entire city the level of service that the citizens of Ward 5 have seen. Let's welcome none other than the candidate for the mayor for the city of High Point in an upcoming election, Mr. Victor Jones. Victor, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
How are you doing tonight?
Doing good.
Awesome. So the sentence that I took from your election campaign, right? It says that that's what I just read out to the audience as well. The time has come for me to step up to the next challenge and show the entire city the level of service that the citizens of Ward 5 have seen. Can you elaborate that?
Sure. So in High Point, we operate with 6 districts. We call them wards. Then there's 2 at-large candidates or council members, and then you have the mayor. And so for the last 6 years, my area has been right here where we're sitting, Ward 5. And I felt like I've done a thorough job. I've shown them what good representation is going to be like. But I think I need to expand my horizons and see what I could do as a citywide initiative. I think we've got a lot of great things going here in Ward 5, but as mayor, I'll be tasked with looking at issues all over the city. And so it's the next challenge. It'll be a little bit, require a little more experience, more leadership at that level. And I'll have to actually bring in all the other council members who will work with me and kind of communicate with all them, each of their wards, what's going on this side or that side, to make sure that we as a council work together to make sure every citizen and every area of the city has our full and undivided attention.
Awesome. I'd like to go into details of what your plans are as a mayor if you get elected. But even before that, I'd like to understand, as a new resident of this city, what are the issues of High Point as of today? What issue do you see as a resident, as a candidate for the mayor?
Well, to understand that, you got to understand the history of High Point. High Point used to be the wealthiest city per capita in the nation. There was so much wealth created with the furniture and textile industries were here. Years ago, a lot of those jobs and industries left this area, left this country. And so you've got entire areas of the city that used to have, you know, people's fathers used to be able to walk down the street and go get a job, bring home a paycheck. Now those are abandoned buildings. And so there's a lot of areas that just don't have any industry, don't have any jobs. And so that's the history of High Point itself. And then as far as what are the main issues of the city, it differs by the area. The wards 1 and wards 5 don't have the same issues. In some areas, there's violent crime. Some areas there's drugs. In some areas there's gang situations. Some areas there's prostitution in some areas. Over here, worst case scenario, somebody's car gets broken into. We don't have a whole lot of problems in Ward 5 because this is it's just a more affluent area. But we've got to bring those industries back. And the reason you have some of the crime that takes place, in my opinion, in some of the areas where there's no industry, there's no jobs, is because there's disparity. People have no hope of what they're going to do, what's going to be their career if they grow up and go to high school and go to college, get a job. They're typically going to move out of the city, go to Charlotte, go to Raleigh. So bringing those industries back and restoring the economic prosperity citywide will help combat a lot of the issues that we're facing.
Along the same line of bringing the industries back, I'd like to direct you to the recent move of the High Point furniture industry, the show, to other city, other part of the country, right? High Point used to be the prime hub for furniture, show, fair, and the vendors. Now, we have seen a gradual shift of that in recent years. Do you see the city of High Point, the problem in its policy, problem in its in activity around preserving those, not making enough effort to keep those industry, or do you see that as a natural tendency of the market, moving from one place to the other?
I think it's natural. I mean, every city in America would love to have the furniture market. I mean, the economic impact to this state is over $7 billion a year. It's the biggest event in North Carolina. So, of course, other states, other cities would love to have our furniture market. And I think Vegas did as good a job as they could to try to duplicate and take our market from us in some ways. But many of those showrooms companies bought showrooms over there, and they also have showrooms here. What they found, from what I understand from the people I know that run the market here, is that while the professionals were out in Vegas, there's a little bit too much fun going on and not so much industry time of actually getting work and looking at the furniture designs and samples and, placing orders and whatnot. So the word on the street is the High Point market is more effective for their personnel and for doing business. And so we're trending back, and the market, the numbers are growing every year. Obviously, COVID was an off year, but last year and the year before, we started coming back. I think we had a really strong market this week. It just finished up on Monday. So I don't think it's going to go anywhere.
One more question on the same topic, and even when you disagree that the entire market has been shifted to other part of the country, do you think there may be something the city or the state itself may have done something differently that could have had an impact on the decision to some of the vendors or even the entire industry moving to a different part of the country?
No, I mean, the state's been very supportive. We get some funding from the state level to help us with our transportation and run all those bus routes that we have, busing people in and out. I do think we need more hotel stock in this area. I'm going to a groundbreaking next week for a new hotel that'll be right there in downtown High Point. That is an amenity that is needed. As the city grows, it'll be more justification for hotels. It's hard to build a big hotel that's only going to be at max capacity twice a year. So a lot of the industries are using Airbnbs and short-term rentals around here. And Greensboro's getting some of our overflow, and so is Thomasville and Archdale. But no, I don't think the state has to do a lot. I think you have to let markets do what markets do. And they did temporarily try other cities to see how viable it will be. But we have seen them seen those markets not be as successful, and the furniture market always comes back to home, and I think it's going to be here to stay.
Okay. Now you say that because you're also a business person, right? You've invested,
Hmm.
the vast majority of your life into business as well, apart from the Marine Corps that you served for 13 years.
13 years in Marine
Okay.
Corps.
And after that, you came right into the business. We'll go into your experience in the Marine Corps
Sure.
in a bit, but I see that you have a strong profile as a business person as well,
Hmm.
and you've established many companies, and you're part of many organizations dedicated to the veterans. But what I'd like to focus now, my question right now, to be on the most recent company that you started on 2023. It says that Patriotic Plumbing Pros LLC, and the
Hmm.
motto that says that a fully licensed and insured plumbing company with a focus on hiring veterans. Why do you need to hire veterans, and why do you see the investment in the veterans is essential in getting this city more to what we want to see in the future?
So I love working with veterans, and one thing about a lot of veterans that come back with issues like PTSD. I have PTSD from my time in war, and I would never survive if I had to go get a job at a corporate America type company and clock in and have lunch breaks and all that stuff. I have to have some freedom. And one of the things I love about being self-employed, nobody tells me when I got to get up. Nobody tells me how long of a lunch I could take. And um, with my limousine company, we're about 70% staffed by veterans. And so that's been my 14 years of that business. And they love coming to work and working with other veterans, but it's not full time, right? It's weekend weddings and birthdays and proms. So I've always been open to another business model. I didn't care what it was. It could have been electrician, it could have been HVAC, it could have been anything. But I just knew there's a big shortage of plumbers. All those industries are short on people. And I thought, well, if I could do what I did with the limousine company and kind of replicate that with plumbing, it'd be kind of cool. But I had to find a plumber. And I found a guy a year ago that was doing some work for me on a commercial project I'm working on down in Lexington. He came by my house and did something for me at my house. And he sent me the bill, and I paid him. And I was joking with him. I looked at him. I said, man, what's wrong with you? He says, he goes, what do you mean? I said, you showed up on time, you did good work, and you didn't gouge me. Are you sure you're a plumber? And I asked him, why do you have a full-time job? Because he had a full-time job. He was doing this on the side. And he goes, well, I tried owning my own business. I didn't really know how to run it, how to market it, do all that stuff. I said, man, I got 6 companies. I could do a 7th one in my sleep, and I'm getting kind of bored anyway. I said, he goes, man, I have to sell my truck. I'd have to do this. I said, man, I'll fund the whole thing, man. Don't worry about it. You just do your trade and let me build the brand. I said, but I got one condition. I want to do apprentices for veterans. He said, that's all I got to do. I'm in, because he actually likes the cause. He's not a veteran, but actually our first employee was a guy I went to boot camp with. He's going through our apprenticeship program. After 5,000 hours of being on a W-2 employee at a plumbing company, you become a licensed plumber. So it's a pathway. So instead of somebody having to take time off of work because he's got a kid and also time off of work, go to school, figure out how to pay your school bills and how you pay your mortgage, he's working now, earning a paycheck, and then when he's done and gets a license, he'll double his income to being a licensed plumber. I like creating pathways for people to be successful because no one did it for me. And so I feel like if I can be that person to reach my hand out and say, here's how you can get to being a six-figure income earner, and I'll show you how to do it. It's kind of rewarding. I love doing it.
I love that answer, but that brings me to another follow-up question
Sure.
along the same line. Looks like you established and you've run pretty successful business in areas that are in high demand. So you've had limousine company,
Hmm.
and you're into real estate,
Hmm.
and you opened a DBA for ATM business with multiple locations 2019, and you have John's Legacy Properties, you have Airbnb, you have Tan and Day Spa. All of these companies, you are creating companies and selling those, doing business that that kind of shows the inconsistency. Do you take that as an inconsistency? You're not stabilizing yourself into one industry and then moving from one to other
Mhm.
primary opportunities that comes your way, or you know is that the way that you see every American should be moving forward for the better future?
Well, you have the wealthiest people I know that I take mentorship from, they have their cash cow. They have something that makes a lot of money. And that usually requires a lot of time and a lot of mental energy. And then they have their passive incomes like rental properties and things like that. So, my insurance business and my limo business has been very consistent. I've been in insurance for 19 years and I've been in the limo business for 14 years in February. Those have been my cash cows, the things that generate the revenue for me. The day spa wasn't all it was I bought a business so that I could have a free place to park my limos. And I was hoping to just break even. I let my girlfriend run it. I'm like, look, baby, you keep all the money. I don't need the income. You just have fun with it. As long as I park the limos there, I'm good. And it started. She and I didn't work out, and so I didn't want to run the day spa and that day-to-day operations. And I found a better place to park, and I got an offer I couldn't refuse that I could sell the company for a profit. So you just cash out. Um, I had a buddy that was into trucking. I had this money sitting there from selling that business, so I got into trucking and figured I'd try that out. Remember, the whole time I still got my cash cows, so I'm dabbling in this and making some money, but that became too much of a headache, and I felt like I was going to get gray hairs way too fast if I stayed in that industry. And so I just said I don't care about the money. It was good money, but I just my life's more is about more than money. And so I said I'm done. Let me cash out, sell that business. And I started getting to the rental properties and the Airbnbs and ATMs and stuff. It's just something for me to put my money in that I'm making from over here that I don't need and invest in something that's more passive. Because one day I'm going to be too old to own a limo company. That's a very intensive business with vehicles on the road and vehicles that can break down and stuff like that. I don't see myself at 55, 60 years old wanting to have a whole lot of involvement with that business unless I just have more people in place that I never even see what goes on other than just get a pension from it. So I advise everybody, if you're a doctor or a lawyer or somebody that makes a lot of money, but you have to go to work every day, you need to be figuring out how to take that money and put it into something else that's passive so that you don't have to worry about doing that for the rest of your life because you'll get burned out on just about everything you do.
Okay. That shows that how smart of a business person you are. But the public would like to know, right? Given your track record on the business, given your track record of last two or three elections that you've
Two,
won,
yeah.
two elections, 2017 and 19 you've won,
Mhm.
what makes you think that you are a great candidate for a mayor of High Point?
Well, when I first ran for office, I didn't know if I would love it or hate it. I figured I'd give it a shot. I threw my $96 in there, filed my filing fee, and I'm not really into politics. I don't even watch the news. So, I mean, it's just not my thing. People always want to get my opinion on political stuff. And I'm like, you're a little weird. I don't want to talk about that stuff. It's not my passion. My passion is my city. Um, and one of the most important parts of our job is just getting things done for people. If there's street lights out, there's a pothole. If there's, the city truck broke their garbage thing out front. Um, there's all kinds of little things. People speeding on the major roads, and all I've done in the business world to be so successful is I'm very good at getting back to people and giving them answers. If you call 5 limo companies in the triad, I'm always the first one to answer or call them back. And so we get the business. That's just how I've done in the business world. I've done the same thing with my constituents. If they email me, call me back, I don't care if I'm at the beach or if I'm laying in bed. I'll email them back and say, hey, let me see if I can address this. I had a lady today, something happened where she had a leak in her house and her water bill's really high and she's freaking out and her water got cut off. And I said, I'm really busy. And I'm really busy right this time of my life with running for mayor. I said, just shoot me an email with it. Let me see what I can do. Within 30 seconds, I emailed her back. So I got it. I'm sending it to staff and working on it. So my point is I care about my job. Didn't just win an election and go say, hey, this is really cool. Look at me. I'm serving the people every day. And they've told me that Victor, I've lived here 30 years. I've lived here all my life, whatever. And we've never had an elected official that's so passionate about actually serving people and getting back to people and answering questions and being approachable and relatable. And when you get that kind of feedback for 6 years, you kind of feel like maybe I am pretty good at this job, right? And so I asked at a town hall in February, and I had this shirt made up that says Victor Jones Mayor, a
I
little
saw that.
baseball
I
jersey.
saw that in your
You know,
one of the
and
video.
I told them, I said, I'm not running for my seat again. I told them that on the announcement for the town hall. So they kept asking me throughout the night, well, what are you doing? We want to know what you're doing. We don't want to lose you, all this stuff. And so I just figured it'd be kind of funny. So I said, so as far as what I'm doing next year or whatever, I need to ask y'all a question. And I pull it out and just, what do y'all think of this shirt? And I just wanted to see that. What if, I didn't know if they would go, no way, you're not ready for that. Who they could have said anything, but it was overwhelming response of clapping and cheering. It's white people, black people, young people, old people, Democrats, Republicans, unaffiliated. The whole room was everybody, so it's not a organization or a demographic that support me. It's a whole community. And you don't get that very often in the political world, because usually you get polarized and people look at you as one side or the other. But that's never been me. Not in my life, not in my business world, not in my time in the service, and not in my time on city council. And it was so cool because, some of the people that were from a different political party that I thought there's no way they would support me. And they're coming at me and said, man, I would absolutely vote for you. We think you've done a great job for us, and we'll support you in any way we can. That is so refreshing to hear in the world. And so, and it caught me off guard, and it felt good, to be honest.
And you've been going to the communities. You've been going to people, practicing different religions: Sikhs, Muslims, Hindus, and people from different walks of life as well. You've been meeting those people, and you've been going to businesses of theirs. You advocate as a Christian, right? How balanced could you be once you become a mayor to other, to people from other religions, to people from other walks of life? How fair would you be in providing the security and sense of confidence to the community, the most diverse community living out in High Point City?
Well, every one of those faiths that you've mentioned are very loving faiths. And one thing about the Christian faith is all about love as well. Jesus even quoted, said, they will know you by your love. And so I think that we have to show love to everybody and show God's kindness. And regardless of who your faith is and who your God is, all of them are talking about that love of God coming through them. And so at all the faith communities, I felt that energy. There's a total, absolute, clear respect for me and where I stand, and them for where they stand, and how amazing it is that we're all friends. We want what's best for each other. We respect each other's faiths. We recognize that there's a mixed community with different backgrounds is a better community, right? I'm a better person for having served with all different nationalities in other countries, and those experiences and that the way that I've been cultured throughout my life has made me a better leader in the business world. It's because I can be able to relate to everybody. I grew up. My best friends were from Kuwait, Arabic guys. So I learned how to speak Arabic at a really young age. I got to be around a lot of Muslim weddings and funerals and stuff, and they considered me part of the family. It'd be all Kuwaitis, and there'd be one little white kid over there, and it's Vic Jones, hanging out. But I think that experience of being around so many different people throughout my lifetime. My nannies were Thai because my mother speaks fluent Thai and would help with Thai refugees and people that were moving from Thailand, help them with their legal documents and all that stuff. So grew up around so many different backgrounds, and you don't know why that's important when you're a kid, but when you get to be an adult and you're put in a position like I'm in now, I'm so appreciative that I've spent so much time around people that don't necessarily look like me, may not have the same faith as me, but I've learned to just feel the love from them and my love for them, and it's awesome.
Fantastic. Victor, I'd like to read out one of the paragraphs that you have in your election campaign site
Sure.
that appears on the front page, and then we'll go into your early career and your life in general
Sure.
and your career in Marine Corps. You say that as your representative of the citizens of Ward 5 for the city of High Point, I have spent the last 6 years listening to your concerns and advocating for your needs. The time has come for me to step up to the next challenge and show the entire city the level of service that the citizens of Ward 5 have seen. That's the exact same paragraph that we read before.
Sure.
So the last 6 years, can you tell the audiences that what have you done that we can say that okay, Victor has done this and this and this in the last 6 years, so he is a good candidate. He is the best candidate for the mayor. If somebody asked you,
Mhm.
what would be your answer? What have you done in the last 6 years?
So we talked about constituent services, and that's typically, like I said, helping somebody when they said I can't get a hold of the city, my street lights out. Can you get somebody down here to get it fixed? I've handled probably thousands of those in 6 years. Okay, but the things that takes experience is navigating tough situations. Like for instance, right on the corner here, there was a developer that wanted to develop affordable housing, workforce housing, and the initial plan back in 2018, I believe it was not well received. The citizens didn't like it. It was going to be a 3-story thing. It was going to be right in front of their yards and everything, and they pushed back. And so I had to kind of negotiate with the developer. Say, I don't think this is the right plan for right now. And we got it off the table, and it came back another time, and it came back another time, and finally this year, he had a 2-story plan that was 55 and above housing, and I had another town hall, and was able to get the constituents of Ward 5 to go, okay, we know it's going to be something. Uh, we're okay with this. And so that's a very difficult thing when you're talking about putting development in somebody's backyard, and you're able to get them to not picket it, not protest, and they actually look you in the eye and go, yeah, we're okay with that. You don't have that happen very often. That happens because they knew that I was giving it everything I got. They knew that I was keeping them in the loop, keeping them informed of every step of the process. And the developer knew that I was doing what's in the best interest to protect him what he wants to do, but also to protect the look and feel of this city. It takes experience to navigate situations like that. We've had multiple very difficult rezoning cases. I've been able to represent my citizens through a pandemic. I never thought I'd sign up for that. I mean, that was a very difficult time, and people looking to me to answer questions about what are we going to do. I'm just as scared as you are. I don't know. We're all hanging this together, but I saw the world, and I saw specifically my city come together and reach out for each other. I was in the front page paper because we went to a conference in DC, and the whole council and mayor had to be quarantined because somebody tested positive up here in DC, and it was right when it all started. I mean, I had people emailing me, say, can we bring you some food? You do something? I'm good. You appreciate it. But to see the community that cared about me, and I did the same thing. I found out about somebody else having COVID, and I could go drop off some groceries and everything like that. I've grown as a leader over the last 6 years. I wouldn't be ready to be the mayor 6 years ago. I was barely ready to be on city council, and I had to learn. I had to walk walk slowly into the role, and I was nervous about being on city council when I first got elected. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm in. But I prayed a lot. I've asked a lot of questions from my current mayor and other council members that have been on council longer than me. I kept my mouth shut so I didn't go say something stupid. And but I feel like over 6 years, you're never really ready for the next challenge 100%. You just know you're ready to take on the next challenge. And so I know it's going to be some growing pains. Um, I know there'll be some difficulties, some things that I haven't overcome yet, but I have to believe I'm as ready as I'll ever be. And I believe the citizens of High Point have full confidence that I can carry out the job.
Okay, Victor, let's talk about your early life. Where were you born, raised, and what was your early childhood like?
So I was born at Duke Hospital, but I was raised in Raleigh, North Carolina. My father was an IT communications and an Army officer. But by the time I was born, he was working in an IT field out in Research Triangle Park. My mom's a school teacher. I've got an older brother who's 4 years older than me. I was actually with him today. He was in town. His organization had a conference they brought to High Point, so I was there to speak and give him a hard time, but welcome him and his group to High Point. But you know, I guess the best way to understand my growing up was I saw my dad get laid off, and then he had a little medical issue. We think he might have had like a mini stroke from the layoff, and he never really recovered from a career standpoint. And I knew at an early age I didn't want to go, the direction my parents went with the PhD and master's degrees and all those types of things, and get a corporate job working for somebody else. And so I went to a flea market one day and in Raleigh, and I asked the guy if I could work there. He said, "Well, you're too young to work." I was like 13.
How old were you by then?
13.
13.
Yeah. And I said, "Well," he said, "Well, I wanted a video games. I just wanted a couple bucks to get a Nintendo game. I didn't really care about, having money." But he said, "But that guy down there is closing down his booth." So I went over there. The guy was closing down his booth, and I asked him, "What could I do?" He said, "Well, if you want to run this thing, you can run it. We'll just work out a deal." I kicked him in, I think 10% of profit, kicked in the flea market 20% of revenues, and I got to keep the rest. And here I am at seventh grade, bringing in $50 to $200 a weekend. That's not a lot of money today, but it's not bad. But this was like seventh grade, a long time ago. And so I ran it for a couple of years. The flea market itself shut down, so I was like, I got to figure out a way to make some money. So what could a kid do? So I bought a lawnmower and a leaf blower and a weed eater, started mowing lawns, started hiring my buddies. So I didn't have to mow the lawn. I would just get the accounts and collect the money. They'd go do the lawns. And I was like, this entrepreneurship is pretty cool. And it does come with challenges, and you get into a real business as you get older, and you got, overhead and everything like that. But I just knew that my passion was business, and I was good in school. I did really well. I was the top of my class, but I was so bored with school. I did get my degree, but that was just to make my mom happy. I would have been fine not going to college, just going to get my insurance license, doing something, start my own business. I feel like for me, just wasn't rewarding to go that direction. But entrepreneurship was instilled in me. I did find a man who's been my mentor since I've been 17. I was working at this summer camp, and he came in and was a speaker, and I met him, and he's still my mentor. He's a very well-off entrepreneur, has a ministry. So it was kind of like having, I don't know if you've ever heard Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, kind of like having a rich dad that would answer questions for me and teach me step by step, and not just finance, not just business. I mean, relationship questions, life questions, just general advice. Before I ran for office, that's who I had lunch with, to kind of let him. He tried to talk me out of it, but that, just to kind of figure out what his thoughts were.
So that shows that, you started printing money at the age of 13, right? That shows that entrepreneurship was in your blood.
Right.
But something that doesn't add up is, your service in Marine, right? How did you end in the service? Was your father your motivation? Was your father the reason to go into the military, army?
Well, he was an army officer. I didn't really know until I was moving some stuff out of my mom's house after my dad died a couple years ago, and I saw little scrapbooks that you'd make when you were a kid from school, and there was all these pictures of Marines in dress blues, and I guess I just at a young age I always thought it was something cool about the Marines. My mom wanted me, if I was going to join the military, they wanted me to go in the Army or Navy where there's other job opportunities or things like that. But my fear was, what if I went into the Army? I'd always wonder if I could have been a Marine. Marines don't wonder about anything. That's the top. Like, that's the toughest branch there is. And so I knew if I was going to do it, I had to go United States Marine Corps. If I could make it through that, I could make it through anything. And I think it was a lot about serving the country. To be honest, that's the answer everybody gives. But for me, it was, am I good enough to be a Marine? Can I really be one of those? And I don't think I had the best self-image growing up. I tried a bunch of stuff. But for me, the Marine Corps, when I graduated there, it all of a sudden, it made me believe in me for the very first time at a super high level. And I realized if I could just stick with stuff and don't quit and don't give up, I just made it through Paris Island. I could probably survive just about anything. So my perspective on businesses or running for city council or whatever, it's just, I can do it, And I think everybody can do what they want to do. They just have to have that type of belief. It took the Marine Corps for me to have that type of belief in myself.
And you served in Iraq and Korea, South Korea as well.
Correct.
And when you came back, you were honorably discharged as a sergeant.
Correct.
And you came back and you started your business, but then you said you also had a PTSD, right?
Yes.
Would you be comfortable talking about
Sure.
that?
I wasn't comfortable a few years ago. Now through my nonprofit, I speak about it regularly. I've gotten more comfortable just being open about it. I was ashamed of it at first. I didn't know what it was. I remember just being in church, and I looked at my friend to the right and said, "It's hot in here." She said, "No." So my friend to the left said, "It's hot in here." Started having a panic attack, and it was the lights and the dark room and all the loud music and everything else. So I walked out, sweating. I went and got a smoothie or something up the way from church. And I didn't tell too many people about it. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And I finally tell another veteran who'd been through Vietnam, and he says, "You've got textbook PTSD. You need to go see the VA." So I went to the Veterans Administration and saw a doctor there. Yeah, it's very complicated to get in that system and do all the paperwork, and it's horrible. And it took me probably a couple years of finally getting through there to figure out, yeah, you have something. And I didn't want to take drugs. I didn't want to be medicated on something and lose who I am. There's a lot of side effects of those. So I read a lot about, wellness. And so I started exercising more and started taking walks and started taking time to do things that are fun and decompress. And now it's gotten a whole lot more manageable. It's very rare that I have any episodes. I could feel them coming on, but I also know how to manage it. But it's amazing how, we help up over 1,000 veterans every year with my nonprofit, how I'm able to tell people my story and normalize it to where people don't feel ashamed to talk about it. Yeah, me too. Or a lot of us, we can't go to crowded restaurants. We can't go to big, loud events with loud noises banging and stuff like that. It triggers us and it makes us feel like we're back in war. But if you don't know what it is, it just feels like you're having a heart attack and you don't know why. If Kate and I go out to eat, I'm always facing the exit. So I know exactly, who's coming and going. And, if we're having a conversation out at lunch and, I'm not being disrespectful if I'm doing this, but I'm protecting you. I'm looking around because in my mind, I want to make sure you're safe. And so I'm constantly checking the exit to see who's sneaking up on my friend over here. So it's a blessing and a curse, some of the things that we carry with us from war or from the military. One of the things that's interesting as an employer for veterans is if we leave a foot locker unlocked in the Marine Corps, we will get so hazed and get in so much trouble, right? And you think it's a foot locker. The only thing in there is underwear. What's the big deal? But what training us to think is if you left something unlocked in the battlefield, somebody could get killed, right? And our minds are now programmed that things are not that big of a deal are still a big deal in our brains. So regular people that aren't really ambitious, they're used to showing up late. They're used to not calling people back. And people are used to that person being that guy that you can't trust. They're not going to get anything done. Don't count on Johnny. He ain't going to be there on time anyway. Marines, that's unacceptable to me. And if I tell you I'm going to be here at 8:00, my goal is really to be here at 7:45. I laugh when people text me when I say, we'll have lunch on next Thursday. I've got people that'll text me Thursday morning, like, are we still on for lunch? I laugh because of course we are. I said we're going to be here at lunch. I never break my word. But they're not used to that. They're used to having to check to make sure we're still on for lunch today, because in the normal world, people don't keep their word. And so, that's how the mind gets changed in the military, including the PTSD. Some of that is just the price you pay for going to war. But I've tried my best with me and with other veterans that I'm helping to show them how they can take some of those traits that are going to be with them for the rest of their lives and embrace it to help them be successful in different ways.
I really appreciate you, Victor, for telling your story and then explaining about, your nature and behavior. I'd like to relate that to our instance today, that you were 15 minutes early here and then you texted that you're already here. Normally, I am the one who'd like to be first. Today, I was late. Well, even though it was ahead of time,
Sure.
and I always plan to be at least 15 minutes early on the spot. But then you beat me today. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. I also would like to appreciate you for your time and your willingness to speak with us and spreading the message and talking about your agenda, talking about your aspirations and your life in general. I'm honored to have you on my show, and we're going to publish this as soon as we can. Do you have any last minute thoughts, words you'd like to share, spread?
No, I would just say that I appreciate as well. Like I love having these conversations because I think you have a story to tell. I have a story to tell. Everybody has a story to tell, and there are things about your life and about my life that can help other people overcome certain things. For me, maybe it's the entrepreneurs out there that might see your show. Maybe it's a veteran. Maybe it's somebody who's going through PTSD of all different. There's different traumas that cause PTSD. I never know when I sit down for a lunch or a coffee or an interview like this, who's going to be listening, who the audience is going to be. One thing I know about my faith is that I was brought here for a reason, to meet you and have this conversation. And I know that it's going to go out there over the internet somewhere, and you're going to hear from somebody that they needed to hear this conversation we had tonight.
Fantastic. I truly admire your positivity, and I see that your faith comes into play whenever you speak. And with that being said, once again, thank you very much for your time and making my evening a great one.